News Talk 550 KFYI, the lady at the center of the legal questions of the eligibility of Barack Obama to be President of the United States is Dr. Orly Taitz, Esquire. As fate would have it, she's making flight connections in Phoenix today en route to the East Coast. And Dr. Taitz, welcome to KFYI.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on the program.
Well, you were the subject of conversation in a big event we had yesterday here in Phoenix, KFYI Smackdown, and you find yourself in the thick of this legal battle, first with Major Cook and then with another motion that you filed in court yesterday on behalf of Dr. Alan Keyes, among others. First things first, let's talk about Major Cook's case and what has transpired with the Department of Defense.
Well, they pretty much have shown their cards, and they have shown that they have no cards. The fact that so quickly were they willing to rescind the order, to revoke the order for him to go to Afghanistan, they're saying, okay, you filed the TRO, he doesn't need to go. It means that they have nothing. That they cannot go to court because they know that they don't have any proof showing that Obama is eligible for presidency. And what happened is that they just undermined, for the sake of covering up for Obama, they undermined our national security. Because from now on, each and every member of U.S. military can go ahead and file a lawsuit. Any order that he doesn't like, he's going to pick, you know what, I don't like this and that and 3 other orders. And what they will do, they're just going to call me, and I will file a lawsuit on their behalf saying my client will not follow those orders because the commander-in-chief is illegitimate and any order coming down the chain of command is an unlawful order, and that's it. We'll have no military. It never happened in this country. This is incomprehensible that the top brass of the U.S. military, Robert Gates, the Secretary of Defense, and Michael Marlin, the chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff, would undermine our national security, particularly in line of the fact that I have already submitted 8 dossiers. I submitted those to Department of Defense, Department of Justice. Those were submitted long before the latest hearings in both Keyes and Cook's cases, where I stated that I'm working with a licensed investigator who has 20 years of experience in Scotland Yard, 15 years of experience in this country, and we have found evidence, for example, that there are 140 addresses all over the country under the name Barack Hussein Obama. Those addresses are national databases, widely recognized. And what is even more interesting, that those addresses are connected to 39 different social security numbers. And what is more interesting, that the social security number that Obama used quite often in Chicago, in Somerville, Massachusetts, where he went to Harvard, and even in Washington, D.C., it is a social security number starting by 046 that was issued in the state of Connecticut, and Obama never lived in Connecticut. And it shows that the owner of this social security number is 119 years old. Does he look like a 119-year-old to you?
Dr. Orly Taitz, attorney at law, a legal crusader, it is safe to say, as she is taking on the ultimate legal challenge, proving that the President of the United States is not a natural-born citizen and therefore unable constitutionally to fulfill that role. Dr. Taitz, a couple of points that come up here, and I realize your time is short, but as you were laying out the construct of Major Cook's case, you said henceforth you would be happy to bring other cases. Now, you are an American by choice. You came to this country. Yours is a stirring story of immigration and really enjoying the freedoms of the United States. Given your perspective, isn't this difficult for you to say, I'll continue to bring cases that could perhaps conceivably undermine national security? Or is the shoe on the other foot with Secretary Gates and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs with their unwillingness to go into court, to be involved in discovery, to really deal with the eligibility of the commander-in-chief?
To me, the fact that Department of Justice and Department of Defense not provide such information that they didn't become my clients and didn't join my cases on behalf of the plaintiffs is undermining our national security. This cannot continue any longer. And by the way, I've been working on this for the last 10 months. Since August, nearly a year. It took nearly a year to bring it to the forefront. I filed numerous cases. I went to the Supreme Court, and I have seen how people were intimidated, how they were harassed. If, God forbid, anybody would ask legitimate questions about Obama's eligibility, just a whole army of thugs were there to harass citizens. That reminded me, Communist Soviet Union. I got out of there. I'm not going back. That's it. I'm not going back to the communist country. And what Obama and his administration are doing, they're building a communist totalitarian regime. And it's the most appalling, it's travesty of justice that this man has arrogance of sitting in the White House, holding a position of president and commander-in-chief, and being in charge of all of our nuclear arsenal while refusing to take 1 minute to sign a consent form to release his vital records. That's arrogance. This is total disrespect to each and every citizen of this country, and particularly to the members of U.S. military that are risking their lives for this country. And he cannot risk 1 minute of his time to sign a consent and show his original birth certificate, his passport, his immigration record. This is inconceivable. Just for that, he should have been kicked out of office. That's just spitting in the face to the whole nation.
Dr. Orly Taitz, attorney at law, we've just chronicled the situation involving one of her clients, Major Cook, who had his orders rescinded rather than the Department of Defense taking up and saying, well, here is the eligibility of the commander-in-chief. Rather than taking this case forward, the Department of Defense rescinded the orders for Major Cook. So that certainly, I think, could be classified as a victory for Major Cook and for Dr. Orly Taitz, attorney at law. Dr. Taitz, in the few moments we have remaining, you've been very gracious with your time. Bring us up to date on this motion that has been filed in the Central District of California among the plaintiffs, our friend, former Ambassador Dr. Alan Keyes.
Well, actually, I have filed 2 cases on behalf of Ambassador Keyes. As a matter of fact, the first case I filed back in November before the Electoral College, and that was in state court, and this case was filed in federal court on January the 20th, where I sued Obama as an individual for something that he did before the election, and namely committing fraud, namely concealing all of his vital records. And what is interesting, probably a lot of people don't know that none of the secretaries of state ever asked Obama for the original document. They just took his statement of a candidate on face value without any verification. B, not too many people know that the state of Hawaii has a very particular statute, 338, that allows foreign-born children of Hawaiian residents to get Hawaiian birth certificates. Did you know that?
I had heard some talk about it, but again, you're saying that this is a specific statute, a statute specific to Hawaii that allows for it. Isn't there a differentiation rather than technically being a birth certificate? It is a certification of birth, some sort of different legal term of art?
What it does, it says that even if you are born in Kenya or Indonesia or anywhere, you can still get a birth certificate in the state of Hawaii. And that's a problem. Aside from that, Hawaii has another statute, statute 38-5, that allows one to get a birth certificate based on a statement of one relative only. So if, let's say, he's born in Kenya and his mother didn't want to bother going through immigration, pay big immigration lawyer, she could simply go to the Health Department, sign an affidavit saying that he was actually born in Hawaii, not in Kenya, and she would get the same birth certificate from the Health Department of the state of Hawaii as somebody who was really born there and who has a proper birth certificate from the hospital. And it's interesting that in spite of all the challenges, and there were over 100 lawsuits all over the country, Obama has never shown his original birth certificate. All he did, he has shown a computer image. Now, everybody knows you can Photoshop computer image any way you want. It's nothing. It's just a piece of garbage. I had one of my volunteers within 5 minutes Photoshop this piece of garbage that he posted on the internet and change from Barack Hussein Obama to Barack Hussein Obama bin Laden.